Start by telling us a little bit about growing up and where you grew up and your parents.
Well, I was raised in northwest Missouri, about 100 miles north of Kansas City. And I was raised with a family of 5 children. And my father was a livestock buyer for a commission firm out of St. Joe, Missouri, till I was about, I guess, 7 or 8 years old. And then he'd bought a farm out of town, and I moved out there of course, with my dad and mother, and lived there until I think it was about after high school. I went to college, and took 2 years, and I decided to go to California. And when war was declared, well, I says, I had no dependents or anything, so I'll go back to my local draft board. I volunteered for Army. That was about what happened to me.
And when you enlisted, where did you go?
Went to Fort Riley, Kansas, put me astraddle of a horse. And when war was declared, it was December the 12th. We moved to Tucson, Arizona. One of our squadron had the security of the border between Arizona and Mexico. They gave me a detail of guards for the David Moulton Air Force Base in Tucson. And I had to change those guards every 4 hours. They done that with a mounted patrol, David Moulton Air Force Base. It was never the size it is today. And they could make the round in that Air Force Base in about 10, 15 minutes. But I remember one thing. We had a pyramidal tent for the guards. That on their time off of duty, why, they would go in and sleep, and they'd tie their horse at what they called a picket line. And one evening there was, I don't know how many, I think 5 or 6 B-25s came in, spent the night at the air base. The next morning they all got up and warmed their airplane up. They took a short runway over where we had this pyramidal tent sitting there. And they took a short runway to take off. Those guys come over there, and just as they'd get up in the air, they'd goose it off to one side, you know. And I think the 3rd airplane took that tent off the ground. Guys in there asleep. But no, that's just from Tucson. They sent me to Fort Knox to Camel.
Joined up with the 12th Army?
I was one of 23s from Fort Knox that went down on the Cattery at Camel. There wasn't a paved street in the place.
What was Fort Campbell like?
Well, we had a fellow by the name of Novak, was a regimental sergeant major. And he picked me out to drive a truck to pick up the recruits off the railhead. And I kept that truck at my barracks. And I'd been up a couple, 3 nights in a row, and one night I says, I just left the truck where it normally played, in a great big rut, mud. So I went over next door to an empty barracks. There was 2 or 3 mattress covers there, and I just threw them over me and slept there. He didn't know where I was. And the next morning, when he looked at me, he said, "Where you been?" And I says, "I got a good night's sleep." But and we got those guys in, filled up the division, and that was about it.
What were the barracks like? Camp.
It's all wood barracks, and I believe it was heated with coal. And well, it was comfortable as far as the Army went. You had to make out what you wanted.
What did you do there at Camp Camo first? Were you cavalry?
Yeah, well, we got into, and when I left Tucson, we left our horses there. Moved to Fort Knox and went to school there for the Armored Force School. And of course, we've got acquainted with the equipment and everything of Armored Division. And in Camel, we formed the 12th Armored down there. There's 26 of us formed the 12th Armored Division. Colonel Donaldson was commanding colonel, and he says we'll double time every place we go on while we're on the streets. And it's when they started paving the streets, and I guess we did.
What were your experiences in the Tennessee maneuvers?
Beg pardon?
What were your experiences in the Tennessee maneuvers?
Well, I don't know, it's just normal maneuvers. We had problems that I got red tagged one day. They come by and tagged me with a red tag that said I'd been killed, and I had a Jeep and a driver, but I couldn't go back to my outfit. And that was down by close to Murfreesboro. They wanted to see how the command between the platoon sergeants and the other sergeants and corporals and under you, how that chain of command worked. Never did get a report.
What do you remember anything about the train ride down to Camp Barkley?
Yeah. When we got off, we, I believe it was Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. We had a layover down there, the train layover, and there was a liquor store not about a block off. And I know there was plenty of it brought in that liquor store and brought in onto the train then, but I don't know what happened then.
What did you think about Abilene when you got to Camp Barkley?
You want to know the truth? The hell hole of a creation.
Why?
Dust, dirt, and what have you. Had those doggone shacks that you lived in. Lived just about like a bunch of rats.
What was the terrain like when y'all did maneuvers?
Oh, no, it wasn't too. It was pretty smooth and everything. It wasn't too bad.
And then, what kind of memories do you have of, well, when you guys left, started getting ready to leave and go to New York there before you took off? What was your experience?
We were having trouble getting. We all wore coveralls at that time down there. We were having trouble getting new coveralls. And I knew one of the supply sergeants in one of the adjoining companies, and they were getting ready to go. I don't know whether they were going to South Carolina, but their alert was to go overseas. And they had to turn in all of their used clothing and everything for new clothing. And he had a big pile of coveralls that some of them were new outside his. I went over and asked him, I says, what are you going to do with those coveralls? And he says, I got to turn them in. I says, can I have them? He says, get them out of here quick. And I took over, I had my own platoon. I said, went back, I told them, the guys that knew, and I says, you guys want coveralls? Let's go. Took them over there and we cleaned the coveralls out. They had coveralls to wear. But that's about all right.
What was your rank at that time?
That's staff sergeant.
And you made sergeant when?
No, I made staff sergeant way back in Camel. Yeah.
And the plane ride up to Shanks? Any?
Well, one of the other staff sergeants and I, we got in one of those little sleeping compartments, and we spent that most of our time in that compartment. The rest of them were old enough that they knew that the ways of the world, so we turned them loose.
Okay. So, did all the men have sleeping compartments, or?
No. They, I don't know. They were sleeping in. I guess on seats and what have you, just what they could get.
Okay. And did you get to say goodbye to anybody, or?
I had my girlfriend, and we were going through Kansas City, and I told her that I'd be going through Kansas City. And she was working in Kansas City, and I told her, I says, I don't know what time we'll be by there, but I said, you'll be down at the Union Station. Let's hope that we get a layover there. And all I done is just wave at her. I says, hi, and goodbye. That was all. As we pulled through there, we didn't stop at all.
Did you guys write letters during the war?
Oh, yeah. My mother and my girlfriend.
What was Camp Shanks like?
It wasn't too much. I did get leave. One of the other sergeants and I went to New York one night, and we didn't appreciate what New York offered, so we just went back to camp.
And which boat were you on?
I don't remember the name of the boat.
What was that trip like?
Just like a cork out in the daggone middle of the Atlantic. We was on a convoy, just bobbing around. I think it took us 21 days to go to Bristol, England.
And
Well, we picked up our equipment there and went down to Southampton, England. From there, across the channel.
And how did you land in France?
I don't remember.
What was your first combat experience?
Around Nancy, France.
And what happened?
Well, wasn't too much resistance.
Who were some of your buddies by this time? Or people, I guess, in your squad, in your company?
I tried to keep a pretty friendly relationship with all of them. Not friendly, but we were a pretty close unit.
Who were some of those guys?
Well, my scout section sergeant was Dennis Calderon. And, oh, gee, I don't know. Through the years, it had many different changes, and I don't know just who all they were.
Okay. As you guys moved on, can you just kind of take me through what you encountered as you moved through?
We encountered the German daggone soldiers. Military is what we encountered.
After Nancy?
We went on through, and we broke out of Herlesheim. Went to, we got objective at Worms on the Rhine. There was a bridge across the Rhine River at Worms. And they informed us to make sure that we kept that name in our mind. Worms, Worms, Worms. Well, we got the Worms all right, but they blowed the bridge up in our face. As we got there, I blowed it up, so we had to go down. Oh, that's the name of that. I don't know, but anyway, we had to cross the Rhine River on a ponton bridge then.
And what did your unit in recon do, and what was your job?
Recon, we went out looking for trouble and found it. That's the only thing I can tell you.
All right. Did you have any experience with the death camps? Any experience with the concentration camps?
Yeah. Went into Landsberg, encountered a death camp there. I cut the wire on one of the camps and turned the prisoners loose, and all there was a mess, lousy, what have you, starving and what have you. And I made a mistake, but when I cut that wire, I turned them loose, and they got in our way. And we got out of there pretty quick and then moved south out of Landsberg and encountered 20-millimeter anti-aircraft from the top of a building. But called for support from a medium tank. We disposed of that.
And after Landsberg, after that?
Oh, it was all over down through there.
What do you remember about the day the war ended?
I think the Sunday before, I don't remember exactly what day of the week it was, but the Sunday before war was over, I think we picked up 15,000 German troops. They just come marching in groves. And all we do is just sit, go on back. We didn't. All they could do is, what'd they say, War's Creek or something like that. War's finished. But
any celebration or anything?
no. The only thing we done when we heard it, we all got together and more or less just was thankful that we were all alive.
And did you, were you discharged soon after, or did you have to hang around?
No, see, I had to go to Antwerp, Belgium, get a boat to come home on. I went to Frankfurt to fly home, but this close buddy of mine, he was married and had 2 children, and he had, I think, 3 or 4 points more than I did. And we got up there, and I told him, we always called him Pappy, and I says, Pappy, they haven't got enough airplanes. And he said, oh yeah, they have. But they cut us off just after he got on. They cut me off, and I had to go back to the company. I had to stay another month.
Where were you waiting at? Where was it?
I don't remember the name of the town anymore, hell bells.
And so you just flew back to
No,
work?
no. I had to go back down to, went to Frankfurt for airfare to go home. And we were stationed south of Frankfurt. And then when got orders to go again, we had to go up to Antwerp to get on a boat to come home.
And where did you come in?
Boston. From there to St. Louis, and St. Louis home.
Did you continue to have a relationship with your girlfriend after the war?
Yeah, I suppose so. After you marry them a while, you know.
So you married your girlfriend
Yeah.
before. What was her name?
Yeah, it was, let's see, I got home in October, and of course we had been corresponding all the time. I married her the next year, and had her for 40 years, but she decided that she was pass on. Became ill and passed on.
Can you think of anything else? Oh yeah. And after you got back, what did you do?
I was an electrician. After about I think about 4 years, the director of the state electrical board in Colorado told me, he says, I want you as one of my inspectors. So I kept telling him, I says, you don't have enough money. And he called me at home one night and says, I've got enough money. So about 11 o'clock at night. And I says, I'll give my boss notice that I'll be with you. And I stayed with him until I retired as state electrical inspector.
So, anything else?
Is there anything that you'd like to, is there anything that you would like to tell us, or?
Anything you'd like to add?
No?
No? Okay.
Okay.
Well, we appreciate your time.
You bet.